Jewish Education in Media is pleased to present L'Chaim, a program that highlights the people, issues, and events of importance to the Jewish community. Now here is your host, Rabbi Mark Golub.
I'm Mark Golub. And if you have a pretty good knowledge of the events surrounding the birth of the State of Israel, you know that there was a series of ships, 64 ships, most of whom are related to a book that we became so familiar with by Leon Uris called Exodus. There were boats used to bring Jewish survivors and refugees from World War II Europe, survivors of the Holocaust, to Palestine when it was under British control prior to Great Britain's leaving Palestine and David Ben-Gurion's reading the Declaration of Independence of the modern State of Israel on May 14th, 1948. Prior to May 14th, 1948, the British ruled in Palestine, and they included a draconian immigration policy that severely restricted Jewish immigration. And so although the United Nations had already endorsed the partition of Palestine into a Jewish state and an Arab state, and although thousands of Jews from Eastern Europe, Western Europe were homeless after World War II and were desperate to make their way to Eretz Yisrael, the British virtually closed the gates of Palestine and refused to permit Jews to enter the land. In this setting, against this backdrop, courageous, heroic individuals dared to run the British blockade, and in some instances publicly defied the British stranglehold on Palestine by helping to bring Jewish refugees into the country, trying to evade the British naval blockade, and by smuggling Jews into the Jewish homeland. These efforts at what was technically called illegal immigration became known as Aliyah Bet. Aliyah, the word for immigration to the land of Israel, to Eretz Yisrael, and Bet, the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So Aliyah Bet was the effort to circumvent British immigration quotas on Jews and to run the British blockade. On this edition of L'Chaim, I am truly honored to be sitting with one of the heroic figures who took part in Aliyah Bet. Murray Greenfield, who in 1947 served on the ship named Hatikva, which was part of the convoy of ships known as the 1947 Exodus that took part in Aliyah Bet. And Murray Greenfield helped relocate 40% of Holocaust survivors who made their way to Palestine. 40%. By the way, Murray Greenfield is the founder of Gefen Publishing, Israel's largest publishing house of English language titles, not only English language, but primarily English language titles. And he's the author of 2 books himself, one of which is entitled The Jews' Secret Fleet, The Untold Story of North American Participation in Smashing the British Blockade, which of course helped to establish the modern State of Israel. And Murray, it is such an honor to have you. Thank you for joining us on L'Chaim.
Thank you for the invitation.
So here you are, a kid in 1947,
Yes.
45, 46, 47.
Right.
And the first thing we need to know is how in the world you come and get involved in this. So I want to start the story at the beginning. Where were you born?
Born in the Bronx. My Brit, if you want to know, was on Yom Kippur.
Really? Your Brit Milah was on Yom Kippur, okay.
And
You
then
want to tell me the year?
And well, now it's 88.
You're 88 years old.
88 now.
But what? So when what year were you born?
1926.
You're born in 1926, and as we're taping, you're 88.
Yes.
Your Brit Milah is in the Bronx. Who are your parents?
My parents were they came from Poland as young, poverty-stricken children before World War I.
Their names?
They came to New York.
Yeah.
And they joined the Landsmannschaft, and they went out to work. And the Landsmannschaft, which is like a sorority or a fraternity, helped make them each meet each other. And they...
Oh, that's how they met?
Yes, yes.
What were their names?
My mother's name was Sarah, and my father's name was Herman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any siblings growing up?
Well, we were 5 brothers.
Wow.
Yes. And I don't know if many people remember Eddie Cantor, but he had 5
Of course.
daughters.
Yes.
You know? And people used to tell my mother, you got to meet Eddie Cantor, you got 5 sons.
A great entertainer, singer-entertainer, right?
And a great Jew.
And a great Jew. Where'd you go to school?
Far Rockaway High School.
Uh-huh.
And the war, all of us, 5 brothers went into the Army, of course. My brothers went into the Army. And I asked them, where should I go? They said, don't go to the Army. I went to the Merchant Marine.
Where are you in the 5?
I'm number 4.
You're number 4. Okay. Your other 4 brothers went into the Army?
Yes, yes, yes.
You went into the Merchant Marine?
Yes.
Okay. How was that, Murray?
It was such a foreign thing to me, you know. I never knew much about ships or vessels. It was, on the other hand, it was interesting because suddenly I was with a bunch of people that were so different than what I had grown up with in Far Rockaway, New York. So it was a great experience, a great experience.
Was there anti-Semitism?
Oh, yes, of course there was. You ask a good question. Once I was sitting at a table and we're talking about something, and the guy says to me, Jew boy, and I wince. I said, I'll meet you on deck. That meant you're going to have a fight. And we went on deck and had a fight, and he beat me. But everybody was proud of me. Mm-hmm. Even the goy missed. Oh, you stood up for it. But yes,
there's a lesson there, by the way, isn't there? There's a lesson and a message there, isn't there, Murray?
Oh, absolutely. If you don't stand up, you can't survive.
And even if you lose the fight, you win the war.
Absolutely.
Okay. So how long do you spend in the Merchant Marine? And where do you go? Where are you stationed?
Well, I first studied at the Marine Academy and then went to sea. And we went over wherever they sent you, on tankers or on delivery ships or whatever it was. And I went. I never liked it. It was a lonely job. And on the vessel, I was usually the only Jewish boy. And being brought up in Far Rockaway, we were very Jewish in the way we brought up in Far Rockaway. One of my great friends, he used to call me on the street, hey, Jew. And we weren't ashamed of it. So it was not a very interesting job for me. But I did, and I learned.
But wait, as you were growing up, was your home observant in any way?
Well, we had a kosher home, yes. My mother kept a kosher home.
Shabbat?
Shabbat, no. Well, Shabbat I kept more than the others for some reason. Some rabbi talked me into it. But we were traditional, I would say.
Do you have a Bar Mitzvah ceremony?
Oh, did I have a Bar Mitzvah?
Tell me about it.
I tell you, my Bar Mitzvah was most unusual. My father had brought his father over from Poland. His father didn't speak a word of English, and only Yiddish. So I learned Yiddish because of him. My Bar Mitzvah, I said, I want my grandfather to be there. And he was, of course, very Orthodox. Well, so we worked it out in some way that he would stay over in Far Rockaway at our house. And I said, I'm going to learn my speech in Yiddish. And I did.
You did your Dvar Torah in Yiddish?
Absolutely. And when I got finished with it, everybody was so surprised. And the rabbi said something, you'll have to know Yiddish. He says, Ich weiß nicht, als verstanden, was gesucht, aber gesucht auf Yiddish. And I was so embarrassed because what did he say? He says to me, I don't know if he understood what he said, but he said it in Yiddish and that was good. I said, what kind of what? But that's what.
Rabbis can be silly sometimes.
Yes, sometimes. I'm not, yes.
Anyway, you have warm memories about your Bar Mitzvah.
Oh, yes, very much.
Okay, so this is who you are.
Yes.
As you were in the Merchant Marines.
That's right.
This is a boy you are. How old are you roughly at this point?
Well, in the Merchant Marine, I was, I went in it just about before I was 18, and I got out, I was over 20. Yes.
Okay. And at that point in your life, try to remember back, did you have any sense at all of Palestine as the Jewish homeland?
Not really.
Not really, right?
No, not really.
It comes later, yes?
Oh, it came as I got into this whole thing of sailing the ship.
Okay, so that's where we are in the story now. How does Murray Greenfield end up involved in any way of Aliyah Bet?
Well, because of the synagogue, believe it or not. I went to the synagogue when I came home from the Merchant Marine. I knew a lot of fellas. Let me go say hello. While I'm there at the synagogue, one of the guys says to me, Murray, they're looking for you. I said, who's looking for me? I'm finished. I'm going to go to college. So I'll tell you, and after the synagogue, he told me that they're looking for fellas who have training. And I said, what's it for? To save Jews. Well, I was very into the idea of what happened to the Jews. I knew about the Holocaust because my parents, because of my grandfather, I knew, and I didn't know what I could do. And I said, all right, I'll listen.
What year is this?
This was 1946.
Okay.
And I went downtown.
And you really, by that time, American Jewry did know about the Holocaust.
Yes. Oh, sure.
Okay.
And I knew more. I knew more because of my parents. No family. All the family was destroyed in Europe. So I knew about it. And my mother always talked. We had a photograph of a little girl that she tried to bring to America, and she couldn't get permission because of what all the rules were. And I learned about that, how terrible our country didn't serve our people, how they stopped us from bringing in the few people we could have brought in, at no expense to the American government, at no expense to anyone, only at my parents. And I'm sure that, and I learned later, there were hundreds and thousands of people like my parents.
Does it make you angry?
Well, disappointed, absolutely. Disappointed. Angry, I'm not a guy that gets angry so easy, as you can see from my smile. But disappointed, absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah.
Okay, continue the story.
Okay. So next week, I go down and meet this fella, and he tells me the whole story.
What does he tell you?
He tells me, now listen, we're putting, no, first he wants to know who I am, and he sees, oh, I know something about ships. He's got a live one. And he tells me also, he said, we haven't got many guys who have been on ships that are volunteering for anything. I said, well, what is it all about? He tells me it may take a year, you may go to prison, you may get jail. I said, well, you know, it sounds pretty, and slowly but surely.
Sounds pretty what?
Yeah, what am I getting into? I'm going to give up college for a year and I'm going to go do this?
And you may end up in prison.
Who knows? So I tell him, listen, wait, where do you get paid for the job? I figure, listen. He says, there's no money. You've got to volunteer. I said, I'm going. And
that moved you, the fact that they wouldn't pay you?
That finalized me. I said,
explain why.
Why? Because I said, if there's no money, then they need me. They can't just, you can buy everything, but you can't buy when you need somebody like you. But I had to go home and tell my mother. And I couldn't tell my mother because you don't tell anyone. It's secret. Everything is, nobody's allowed to know.
Okay, forgive me. I want you to be more explicit. What was the secret that you now were asked? You were being asked to participate in something. What were you told then, which it would have been inappropriate for you to tell? You couldn't tell anybody else.
He said, our ships do not have American registration. It would be illegal. They're not. They are not. What should I say? Seaworthy. That's the first thing. So therefore, we're going to have foreign registration, and you will have a foreign registration. I said, well, okay, if that's the way it's got to be. And he said, and you will be going to Europe, and you don't know what country you'll be, and you're not sure what's going to happen, and we don't have really command on everything that's happening. We only know one thing. Eventually, you're going to get to a place that's not a dock, and it's not a port, and you're going to suddenly load people onto your vessel. And I listened to all this.
People
survivors.
Or Jews?
Survivors.
Yes. You were
Jews.
told.
Oh, yeah.
You were bringing survivors.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, we're going to take Jews out of Europe. That's it. We're going to take Jews out of Europe. And so
you're going to load them from somewhere that is not a port or a dock. You're going to put them on the boat, and then what are you going to do with them?
We're going to bring them to Palestine. And he says, in Palestine, when you get there, the British are there. You're not allowed to get in. They're stopping all the vessels. And you never know what happens. Maybe they'll catch you and they'll put you in jail. Some people have gotten killed already because of the way, the behavior of the British. And I hear all this, and I say to myself, I must go. I must go.
Why?
Why?
What do you think
Because
touched
I
you?
said, excuse me. I knew from my parents we couldn't get people out. And they were all dead. And they were dead not for any other reason than they were Jews. And it like I can't talk about it. I said I had to do something. That's all. Maybe I don't know how to talk, but I'm also a doer. And I said, I'm going to go. That's it. But I had one big problem. How am I going to tell my mother I'm not going to go to college? She knew I was making a preparation. I was going to try and go to Hunter College. It was just going to be co-ed. And I went home and I sat with my mother in the kitchen. I said, Mom, sit down. And she looked at me. That was something unusual. He said, sit down, you know. And we spoke Yiddish English. That's what we spoke. And I told her, Mom, I'm not going to go to college. Not this year. She couldn't believe it. She said, what do you mean you're not going to go to college? You must go to college. And she tried to find out. I said, Mom, I can't tell you. I'm not going to go to college. And then I suddenly said to her, Mom, I want to do something good for the Jewish people. She said to me, if you want to do something good for the Jewish people, you don't have to go to college. That was the end. That was it. She told nobody else that I was going to not go to college. I told nobody else. Nobody knew, and I left.
That's an amazing story. Murray, why do you say your mother? Is your father passed by then?
No, but I was closer to my mother, I guess. My father went to work at 5 o'clock in the morning and came home at 6 o'clock at night, you know. Schwer Arm, but they were hard-working people. My father made a good living in the end, but when he left the house early, he left us orange juice he squeezed fresh orange juice, so when you get up, you have orange juice and then have breakfast. And then that, you know, it was not easy times.
Okay. Did you at any point have to tell your father as well?
No, never told anyone.
Your mother told your father?
Oh, she didn't know where I was going.
But she said to your father, obviously, he's going to help the Jewish people.
Something good for the Jewish people.
Done.
And that was it. And her blessing was, you want to do something good for the Jewish people, you don't have to do lots of other things. That's it.
That's an extraordinary story. All right, what happens next? You're now going to go.
Well,
where do you go? Where do you go? Literally.
Well, then we meet, a bunch of us meet out at an airport, Floyd Bennett Airport, and they fly us down to Florida. Now, you must.
How many are there of you?
25 of us.
All right.
And we fly down.
Are they basically your age?
And yes.
You know, you said how when you were in the Merchant Marines, everybody you looked at, they weren't you.
That's right.
Now you're on this plane. Are they all you? Are they all little
Not
yous?
all Jews. No, we had some non-Jews also. We had non-Jews. One guy was a Polish guy. He had worked in a bakery with Jews in Philadelphia. And Duke Labashevsky, he says, I got to do something. I know what happened, because they knew. Another guy was an Irishman, Hugh MacDonald. He says, I'm going to get those British. You know, he was really... So we had some non-Jews. Everybody came under the same condition, no pay, all volunteers, for various reasons, like the Irishman, everybody had...
Did you get along with these guys?
Oh, sure, eventually, not at the beginning, because most of the guys didn't know very much. And so, you know, they were a real pain. And we had to always tell them, listen, you can't do this, you can't...
What is this or that? You can't do what?
First of all, they didn't understand that you got to work 4 on, 8 off. You get up, you work for 4 hours, then you rest for 8 hours. Then you work for 4, around the clock. It's not exact. And they said, well, wait a minute, why can't we work? No, this is the system on a vessel. And they would look at you, or you tell them, look, when you come to eat, you get up, we're small, you got to clean up when you go. They had never gone through this kind of routine. It was something unusual for them. But they learned. And the Zionists were the biggest problem.
Why?
Why? Because they knew everything that was important about Zionism, and I didn't know Aleph from Bet. And every day I learned something new. They were members of Zionist organizations. They had been to farms. They had learned farming in America. They even knew some Hebrew. And I didn't know any of these things. I knew how to go to shul and daven. I knew how to speak Yiddish, but I didn't know Zionism. I didn't know what it was all about. So I started to learn a little bit.
Were they condescending to you?
I think they probably thought they were better than me. I think so, because they also volunteered, and they knew what it was all about. Me, I only knew what it was really all about in a different way than them.
Yes.
They knew Zionists, they're going to build a Jewish state. I didn't have any understanding of building a Jewish state.
At that point in time,
No,
this
I
was
didn't
not
know.
right.
I didn't know. I knew we had to get Jews out of Europe because they were suffering and they didn't want to be, as they told me, where the blood on all the earth is the blood of their family. They didn't want to stand on that earth. That's what they told me. And I said, well, then I had to help them. I knew I had to help. I mean, I learned it.
As you're flying down to Florida, and then you get on a boat.
And the boat, you get on it, and we look at it, and it's not a boat.
What is it?
First of all, it was built before World War I. Not before World War II, before World War I. Nothing worked. We had to make everything work. And slowly but surely, we had to put it together. And I said, and we're going to cross the Atlantic with this? We're Meshuggah. It was even worse than this. We needed radio equipment. So they bring us some radio. You know, in those days, the radio was already getting good. There was things. But then we told them, listen, those of us who were on deck and knew about, we need navigation equipment. They said, don't worry. And they brought us something about so big. It's called the Sextant. Now, a sextant you have to know, because who used it? Guys like Columbus. And, you know, after all, he did discover America, wasn't it?
Did you ever get legitimate navigation equipment?
Never. That was it.
You used it like you were back in 1500s?
Oh, like from who knows when. But we used it.
You were told the ships you were on were not seaworthy. It was true, wasn't it?
That's not only did we know, we couldn't even get American registration. Our registration was South American in some country that some guy by the name Samuel Zamari, who was the head of something called United Fruit, and he had bananas. He was the biggest banana grower in the country, in the world. And he used to get flags for us. He'd call the captain or the general or whoever ran that country, and he'd tell him, listen, the price of bananas is going down. He says, what do you mean it's going down? He says, well, he says, what can I do? He says, I need a license for this and this ship, because we could not have left the port in America unless you had, if you're not seaworthy for America, you need a seaworthy for some other country. So they say, okay. Don't worry, go to Washington, give them a little bit of money, the ambassador, you'll get seaworthy papers. And Samuel Zamari did this.
Amazing.
Amazing Jew. Amazing, amazing.
By the way, this is out of sequence, but maybe you should speak about it for one moment.
Yes.
The story you tell in the Jews' Secret Fleet, the story you're telling us now, this extraordinary group of people who helped organize Aliyah Bet.
Yes.
Especially now we're talking about those who did it through the United States of America.
Right.
It was a large group of people. It was people who somehow came together from disparate places and disparate backgrounds, some of whom were not Jewish.
That's right.
All focused on this one effort.
Absolutely.
Yes?
Absolutely.
And what made this possible was there were extraordinary people involved in this endeavor.
The most unusual. Now, I only got to know them later when I started to do the research on this book. Why did I start the book? Why did I make the book? I had a meeting with Ben Gurion one day for some other reason. And he looked at me and he asked me, when did you come? And I told him. So I tried to explain, well, you got to understand this. When you know Hebrew, and I didn't know Hebrew that good either, you get confused. Aliyah Bet is what it's called in Hebrew. The illegal immigration, as the British call it, is called Aliyah Bet. Aliyah Aleph, the A, was legal immigration. Aliyah Bet was the illegal.
Correct.
But the Jews that came from Russia before World War I and then around that, they were called the Aliyah Shniya. That was their name in Hebrew, the second Aliyah. And I told him I came with Aliyah Bet, and he looks at me. He says, "How could you come with Aliyah Bet? You're a youngster. You're not old enough."
He thought you meant Shniya. He thought you meant.
And he thought it was. And I said, "Now, if he doesn't understand what I'm saying, I've got to find out and make what." And that's what put me to the research over 10 years, trying to find out who we were, what we were.
That's an amazing story,
but
Murray.
This is how it happened. I'm not a writer in that respect.
But what were you doing meeting with Ben Gurion?
Oh, at the meeting with Ben Gurion, I was very active because already I was living in Israel.
Yes, probably at the end of I shouldn't say the end of the story. At the end of this process, you ultimately take up residence in Israel.
Not immediately. I went to do other things. I wasn't sure. I didn't know.
At what point do you begin to live in Israel?
At what point did I get about a year and a half later when I did some other job.
Your wife was named Hannah.
Yes, I met her 6 years later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, here you are in Israel, and you're meeting with Ben Gurion because?
Because I was active in something called the Association of Americans and Canadians in Israel. And I was very disturbed at how we were accepted into Israel. There were things, see, not being a Zionist, I didn't accept a lot of things. A lot of things. For instance, I didn't accept things when I got on a bus, as I lived there, it says, Yehudi daber ivrit. And I looked at that and I says, what's wrong with speaking Yiddish? They didn't want us to speak Yiddish. I said, these guys are crazy. You know, but they were so crazy, they were smart. And so I had a meeting with Ben Gurion, and I'm trying to explain to him, we're not getting Aliyah from America because we don't know how to deal with it. And so I had to tell him the story to make me legitimate. I'm here. And so at this meeting, I'm trying to explain to him how I see it. And it was not always, I don't know if he agreed with me or not, but the fact is he wanted to listen. That's all. You know, I have a different approach to this whole business. I think Aliyah doesn't have to be publicized. I think we let people give us we need to build housing in Israel that's rental so that people can come over with their families and start to live there. I have a different approach to it, but that's a whole big,
Okay. It's a
whole other
different
ball
story.
game.
We may get to it sometime.
Okay.
All right, now come back to the story. So now, here you are, you're trying to make a ship that is not seaworthy
That's right.
into something that will get you across the Atlantic without dying.
That's right. That we should make it, and but we do. We leave Baltimore. We started in Florida. From Florida, we get up to Baltimore. To go from Florida to Baltimore, it's not far. Took us 6 days. Well, you get very 6 days to get no place. You know, you we get
How many in the crew now?
about 30, 31 guys.
Okay, who's the captain?
Captain is not a Jew.
Not a Jew.
Not a Jew. He's getting paid. He knows he's getting paid not for what we're doing, what we're supposed to do, but he's getting paid for what he's called for a delivery. This ship is being delivered someplace overseas, and he knows where. He was told it's going to be delivered in Portugal. He says, delivery. He gets paid for a delivery. On the way across, he finds out he's got a bunch of Jewish boys here, some non-Jewish, and they're Zionists, and they're singing Hebrew songs, which I, of course, started to learn. And
You sang songs?
well, I learned from these guys.
I mean, the group sang songs.
Yeah, sure.
Like what?
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh,
what
come
song
on.
What song did I sing? You know, I'll think in a minute. But,
Okay, fair
but
enough.
what is it? But, and this guy becomes a Jew practically, you know. And when they get to Portugal, he says, I'll stay with these guys. But they say, no, we can't have you. Now, why? I couldn't tell you. I don't know what it was. But he says, I can't have you. And they pay him off, and he goes.
And then who takes over the ship?
Ourselves, within ourselves. We had guys who were trained. And
One of your ranks.
one of us, yeah, one of us.
Okay, and I want to come back to this question again.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to imagine this, right? You're on a plane, you go to Florida. You
Yeah.
find this silly boat. You come up to Baltimore.
Right.
And now you do whatever you have to do, and now you're heading to Portugal. I want to know what's inside you. Is it exciting? Is the adrenaline flowing? Does it become, I've been on a
Yeah.
ship, I've been on a ship from Merchant Marine, there's no big deal here. Was it in any way exciting for you?
The Zionist kids, they sang songs. Me, I only saw work. I did not get excited with the whole thing. I knew what I was going to go do, but I really didn't know.
Okay. Were you ever frightened?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Isn't that amazing in retrospect?
Oh, of course, of course. No, you asked me. Nobody ever asked me that question. You can understand, and I'm not exactly a youngster anymore. But nobody asked if I was frightened. But I don't think I was frightened. Maybe I don't know. I didn't think I was frightened. No, I did worry once if we're going to have enough fuel to get across all the way. But then suddenly we stopped in the Azores Islands, and there was a connection there, and we got the rest of the fuel. But I wasn't, no.
Okay, so you go to Portugal. What happens in Portugal?
In Portugal, we have to rebuild it. We have to make a way for the people. They told us, a Palestinian, you got to understand, all Jews are Palestinians.
Correct.
Arabs are not Palestinians.
Correct.
All Jews are, and a Palestinian from a kibbutz was sent to whatever connection we needed. And he sells everybody, he represents United Fruit. So we're all United Fruit, okay. And he brings a lot of wood. I bring a ton of wood. And the first day we meet him, we sit with him, and he says, boys, on this ship you're going to get 1,500 survivors of the Holocaust. And we look at this guy's meshuggah. Where are you going to put them? And he shows us how we're going to build wood. It's one level, it's two levels. One on top of the wood, we're building shelves. And on each shelf, every 20 inches, we're putting a line. That meant and that's when I got excited. That's when suddenly I saw a body. Every 20 inches, a Jew, a survivor of the Holocaust, is going to be on my ship. And that's when I really got excited. Only at that point, I suddenly saw this thing in front of me. And it was and we did. We rebuilt it. We put the wood on. We put everything together. We're a banana ship. Everybody knows we're a banana ship. But so much sugar. Bananas, you hang. Otherwise, they get bruised. We're building shelves. One shelf on top of the other.
And people were going to go in these shelves.
Oh, they're going to slip in. They're going to slip in, just like that. And they're going to be sleeping one next to the other. And he tells us 1,500 people you're going to fit into this vessel. And I can't believe it.
So you build the shelves.
Build the shelves.
And then one day it's time for the
he says,
survivors.
Sail. You got to sail. Okay, where are we sailing for? They tell you got to go to Marseille. Marseille, what? Okay, we're going to Marseille. We're now in the hands, no captain, we're all our own. And okay, and in order to go to Marseille, you got to go from the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean. And you got to pass something called Gibraltar. And who owns Gibraltar? The British. So that night, we go at night, and we have a different name. We're ready with a different name, but they don't ask us anything, so we're very lucky.
When you say they don't ask you,
the British.
Are you stopped at some point?
No, we were afraid going through Gibraltar. They would say, "Who are you?" Send you with the didar machine, with the Morse code, or with the.
I see.
But no, nobody bothered us.
Bothers you.
Yeah, we're a small vessel going. Who cares about? And we go to Marseille. We unload whatever we had to do, and then we're told to sail over to the coast of Italy.
Okay, one more question. You say it's meshuggah to consider putting 1,000 people on this boat.
Yes.
When the boat was created, what would you imagine its capacity would have been? How many people, if they'd said to you, we're bringing 100, would it have bothered
100,
you?
maybe 200, maybe.
Max.
That's, of course.
And now they're bringing 1,000.
1,500.
1,500.
1,500.
Okay, so now you're on your way to Marseille, and?
On our way to Marseille, we stopped there only for, one overnight. For some reason, I really don't even remember.
And you're excited now.
Oh, what am I excited. Boy, oh boy, this is, you say, what's going to happen? Where are we going to go? How are we going to do? You want to know what's going to happen. Where are we going to find these people? Who knows? You don't know anything. We're not in on anything. We only know we're bringing the vessel. And we then get orders from Marseille to sail off the coast of Italy. We got to go to Italy, and in Italy we're told to wait at night. Wait, we'll tell you when to come in and where. Not to a dock. Not to a dock. We didn't know at that point, but we're told to sail onto a beachhead. Just sail right onto the beachhead at night, middle of the night.
Isn't that dangerous?
Everything is dangerous on a vessel, but anything can happen. You sail up, you can suddenly strike something and get a hole in you. But you don't even think of that. You don't think of it. You're on this mission, and you're getting all charged up because you say, wow, look at what we're doing. And I don't think we even knew 100% until later you really realize what it was all about. Then you suddenly realize it. Okay, so we sail up. And that night, in the middle of the night, trucks come with people. People get off, and they get into get into little boats. We pull them out. They climb up a ladder, and they go inside into the vessel. And these people come with something on their back. What do they call them? A backpack. That's all they own.
Do you remember seeing them as they board the boat?
Oh, of course.
What did you see?
Oh, yeah. First of all, they were young, younger than me. That's the first thing. Second thing, I see this little backpack, and they told they're going to some place. I get frightened. I see people that they they're Jews, and they're speaking Yiddish to me, because I speak Yiddish to them. Many of the crew members were not allowed to meet them, because they didn't know Yiddish. And that was they said, you can't talk, because they'll get frightened. They're going to get caught by the British, because everybody knows, everybody except me probably. And I speak Yiddish too, and I ask them, where are they from? And I find it's from Poland, from different countries. And they're kids. They're kids my age and younger. What the hell are we? I'm a young man. And the whole thing in front of me, well, I would guess that I probably cried. I don't remember anymore, but I would guess. And
heartbreaking in a way?
I think so. To me,
Do you remember their eyes at all?
It was at night. Look, you're asking me. It was at night, and I was excited, and they were excited, and they hug you.
Okay, so they came up with a certain degree of animation and excitement.
Yes, and fear.
And fear.
And fear. Yes, because they sometimes they fool me. Where are we going? They knew where they were going, but they see me, and I have not. I'm dressed different. I look different, so you. In some way, maybe you could have thought, and maybe we thought, we could have been those people. Maybe. Look at this. What mazel. My parents came to America. We were born in America. Imagine if they had not come to America. Imagine they got married in Europe. All these crazy things go through your mind. That's it. And here we are. And that night we loaded 750 Jews. And we go out to sea. 2 nights later, we go to a different beachhead. The same operation.
At night?
At night, middle of the night, we got our same 1,000, and we're up to 1,500, and we set sail. And we're talking with these people. Now, since I know Yiddish, I talk with them.
Okay, now it's not night. You're with them and you can see them.
Daytime, yes. We're
okay,
talking
I'm going to
to
ask
each
the
other.
same question again, and maybe you just don't remember. I want to know what was in their eyes. Was in their eyes excitement, the sense of the future? Were any of them sort of not there?
One of the things that came through, and everyone, where are we sailing? Eretz Yisrael? We're going to Eretz Yisrael, Israel? Yes. Will we have trouble getting there? And what the hell? What do I know? What do I know? But of course, because I'm such a very important person, I say, no, I lie. But I don't know that I'm lying. I don't know if I'm telling the truth. But I say, no, it's okay. We're going to get right there. Everybody's going to be in Israel soon. In Palestine, I'm sorry. It was...
but they said Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah, Eretz Yisrael. You said
right.
Eretz Yisrael.
Right.
You didn't say Israel.
Right.
You said
Land
Eretz
of Israel.
Yisrael.
Right.
Yeah.
It was not a state yet.
That's right.
Yes. And did you have a sense that these people were or were not observant, and was that relevant at all?
Oh, it was mixed all over the place. There was a group davening from Poland, a group davening from one country. But to me, the most important group that struck me the most was there was a group from Hungary, and I couldn't talk to them. They don't speak Yiddish. They don't speak. And I said, how can a Jew not speak Yiddish? Made me crazy. Until today, you hear me today, it's still in my head, the Hungarians don't speak Yiddish.
Uh-huh. All right. How many days are you now at sea with them, with 1,500 survivors?
A week, 8 days.
A week?
Yeah.
At some point, do you know you're getting near
Yes.
the coast of Palestine?
Oh, sure. We not only knew it, it's very exciting. We know we're going to get there, and we're talking about it. And everybody's talking about, they're explaining that we're going to be attacked probably by the British, and that we have to know how to behave and what to do. And they're going to break up into groups. Okay. And me, I think this is crazy. The British, I know, are not going to come out with small boats. They're going to come out with their gunboats. But everybody's talking about it. There we are.
All right, what happens?
Well, as we get closer, within a day of Palestine, an airplane flies over and throws a bunch of leaflets in multi-language things, telling us, don't try and resist. We'll take care of you. Everything is okay. And we read this thing, and the Jews, our survivors, they say, oh no, we got to try. We got to try. We got to.
You got to try what? To run the blockade.
To run the blockade, sure. And so we keep going. We keep going. and within a very short distance from the coast of Palestine.
Can you see the coast?
What?
Can you see the
Not
coast?
yet, not yet, not yet. They come out with their big vessels. They got destroyer escorts. They're big, beautiful vessels. Absolutely beautiful. And I look at them, I says, well, okay, it's finished. But it's not finished, because they come alongside and they shoot tear gas at us, because all our Jews are on deck. They want to see what there is. They get up everywhere. You know, everybody's on deck. You know, who? And these are beautiful vessels, clean and everything else. And so the next thing I find is that they ask us, the British, before they come and jump on board our vessel, they want to talk to our captain. So we look, well, our captain, we talk to our survivors. They are really running the ship now. What do you want to do? They said, don't worry. And they bring some little boy. They tell him, teach him what to say. They give him a hat to fit on his head. And they teach him what to say. And he goes up on the deck. And we shout to them in the megaphone to the British, our captain is on top deck. He would like to meet your captain. And their captain goes out with his epaulets, you know, uniform, everything, all really dressed up. And they tell us the captain's up there. And this little guy stands at the top of his toes and he shouts out, I am the captain. Oh, the next thing.
How old a kid, you think?
I met him, by the way. I met him only last year, after all these years.
Amazing.
I met him. I says, you're the one? He says, that's me. You know, he's so proud of himself.
How old was he,
He
roughly?
must have been, I'm going to think now, must have been 10, 11 years old.
A kid,
like
a child.
Oh, a genuine kid. No, he was a kid, not an adult. No, he was a kid.
This kid
And the
had
British
chutzpah.
jump on board. They shoot tear gas at us. And our people take the tear gas and throw it back. And they start to beat us up with clubs because they want us to go in quietly. And our people fight. And I look at them like they're Miss Sugar. They're absolutely, what are you fighting? We got destroyer vessels pushing on both sides. We're locked in. You can't go anyplace. But they fight. And later I asked them, well, why did you fight? They said, we never had a chance before. We had to fight. You know, it's a great answer. Didn't have a chance before. And so they fought.
Were you injured?
What? Were we injured?
No, were you
Yes.
injured?
Was I injured? Yeah, I was more mentally injured than anything else. I couldn't believe that these British vessels would shoot tear gas at us and come on board and beat us up. To me, this is, you know, I was brought up in America, you know, freedom of speech and freedom of, you know, and you get so confused with all of this. You don't know what the hell to believe already. Because after all, you know, I look at, you learned American history and the British, the British gave us, what did they give us? They gave us so-called, you know, freedom. They had, they had something, the British have some kind of something they tell about freedom. If I could think of the name. Well, anyway, it bothered me. It bothered me. And I just had to be with it. And then they unloaded us on the vessel, and they brought us across the dock in Haifa.
Wait, what did they put you on? One of the destroyers?
Then they put us on one of the big ships. No, they took our vessel, let it in, right into the dock, and they had plenty of officers and soldiers around. And they then they did something that disturbed me no end. They used a gun and shot us with DDT, an insecticide. When I went to write this book and I started looking at it, and I talked to some of the sailors, they looked at us that we were vermin. And boy, that later years, that disturbed me maybe more than many of the other things disturbed me along the way. And I heard this from sailors. That's how because I went to interviews and I found them, you know. I said, boy, they thought of these survivors as vermin. Terrible, terrible thought. It's just, and they put us on a big vessel. We called it a prison ship because it had barbed wire. You couldn't jump off. And they sailed us over to Cyprus. And we all went to Cyprus.
Did you know you were going to Cyprus?
No, I didn't know.
You didn't know where you were going?
You know, I got to tell you something. I think I was so naive. That's what once, many years ago, I said, how could I be so naive to say what I was doing? I thought I was going to, I'm going to save the world maybe. I don't know. I'm going to save the Jewish people. And I didn't realize how much we had against us. And that night when they put me on this vessel, and suddenly I find myself in Cyprus behind barbed wire, oh, that was a terrible thing. That, to me, was the height of the most indecent thing that could have happened. The country that I looked at, being the greatest democracy in the world, outside of it, my own country, America, that they should be imprisoning us behind barbed wire. That was a terrible blow to me. You know, to think of it, and I know it was only 1947, but we all fought together in World War II. It bothered me. It bothers me till today, as you can see. It still bothers me that this. And when I've talked to some of the so-called, one of the guys who were on it, and officers, and then after that, they said, well, we really didn't know. We really didn't know. And they all gave us, they gave me this, and they probably didn't know. But, you know.
They didn't know what?
They didn't know what they were doing, they thought. They, you know, and I said to myself, just like the Germans, they didn't know what they were doing either. They were murdering Jews, so no. And I put this all together, said, there's something wrong around here. There's something wrong. And later on, I decided I should stick with the Jews. I'm staying in Israel. I mean, it's sort of without Zionism. I call my Aliyah without Zionism. But look, times are not. It's a funny world. I was lucky. I grew up in the right time. I had the mazel of being brought up by very Jewish parents in a fairly Jewish home. I would say traditional, so-called Orthodox, but they were not Orthodox. I learned later what Orthodox is and what isn't Orthodox. But they were Orthodox. We belonged to the Orthodox shul in town. In Far Rock, it was the white shul. Okay, it was because they painted it white. And there I come, and suddenly I look back. It was an amazing period of time that allowed me to learn a lot of things about my own people and my own country, America, which I'm very proud of. I think it's a wonderful country. I think, but they did such terrible things. Why? I don't know. I don't know why. And I think what's happening now today is also a very terrible thing.
So what happens when you're in Cyprus, and where did it go from
there?
there?
Oh, in Cyprus, I really learned the people. I really learned about the people. There we had time.
What did you learn?
I learned from how they lived, what happened in the war, how they survived. I learned about who these people were.
How long were you there in Cyprus?
Well, we were
Roughly.
there a few months, that's all. Not
months?
Long. Yeah.
I had that's a long time.
Oh, yeah, but the others stood there as much as a year and a half.
I understand, but still, months is still
everything
months.
is a relationship to everything else, you know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Did you like the people as you got to know them?
Oh, more and more. They were my people.
Yes.
My problem was still with the Hungarians that don't speak Yiddish. That remained all my life. It never stopped. But no, I liked them. I listened to them talk, and I listened to them say, and they were all, I would say, they were enthusiastic to go build something new. And we didn't know when we'll get to Palestine, which became, of course, Israel. We didn't know, but they had this positive attitude. They got married on Cyprus. They had children. Several thousand children were born in Cyprus behind the barbed wire.
In addition to the barbed wire, was there any other indignity that you were forced to suffer? Or should we imagine they put you behind barbed wire, that's bad enough, but actually behind the barbed wire, they left you alone?
Yes, we had our own government, so-called.
Okay, they left you alone.
That's right.
So life wasn't so bad, except that it was terrible to be there.
That's right. And it was terrible because, as an American, it was even worse. For them, they knew where they were going. I was an American. I didn't know where I was going, but I was behind barbed wire. And that bothered them. It bothers me till today. You can hear.
Yes.
It's
I'm wondering, though, whether the survivor who has survived the Shoah and now finds him or herself behind barbed wire, whether you had any sense that there was they just sort of gave up.
No.
To the contrary.
Absolutely. They started to learn. For me, some of them learned English, and I feel sorry for them till today. They studied mathematics. They had classes going. They were studying for
They were
going to
make the most of it, weren't they?
Absolutely.
Okay. How do you ultimately get out of Cyprus?
Well, they changed my name. They took us out only after a few months. They had what they
Your whole group?
Yes, the Americans.
The American. What about the survivors who were on the ship
some of them
with you?
stayed there until what should I say? Until 1948, when the state was declared. They were
Really?
Yes, some of them stayed
By
there.
any chance?
In spite of the fact there was a decision of November of the UN, they didn't let the Jews out. Till May 1948, when the state was declared.
Okay. By any chance, did you stay in touch? Have
Oh,
you stayed
what
in
do you
touch
mean?
with
Not
any
by
of them?
chance. I keep in touch with many of them.
Really?
Oh, Jesus. To me, well, today we're all old and who's left, but they were a part of my lifeblood in that country. They made out. They became successful in their own way. Some became very successful.
Okay.
Their children are in Israel. And we have a country.
I want to talk about one last thing. I mentioned at the open. We, especially my generation, we grew up with the Leon Uris book, Exodus.
Right.
And then the movie is made starring Paul Newman. There actually was the boat that's depicted in the book and the movie is really a conglomeration of.
Right.
There never was that Exodus.
Yes.
There was a boat, the Exodus, which was the President Warfield.
Warfield, right.
Warfield being the president of a company,
Yes.
not a president of the United States, which ultimately created the boat that becomes renamed the Exodus.
Yes.
We talked about the fact there were 64 vessels in this entire fleet of boats, which had one goal: getting survivors into Palestine.
That's right.
And we should understand the movie, The Exodus, the book, The Exodus, really is a depiction, a symbolic depiction of this entire movement.
That's right.
Okay. And people like Ben Hecht here in America were helping to raise money, etc. So that not only were they helping the Irgun, not only were they helping the Haganah, they were also helping to get Jews into
Palestine.
Okay.
Right.
And there's one, in this book, The Jews' Secret Fleet, which you must see, a marvelous, marvelous book. But I was looking at this flag. We're going to put it up on the screen that flew over a boat which said, "We survived Hitler. Death is no stranger to us. Nothing can keep us from our Jewish homeland. The blood is on your head if you fire on this unarmed ship."
That's the kind of people they were. They believed it.
And I'm going to read a quote from The Jews' Secret Fleet by Murray Greenfield. You don't have to remember, but you'll tell me if you remember who said this.
Go ahead.
"We felt that by conducting the repatriation of the Jewish people in a secret manner as a smuggling operation, and by refusing to assume public responsibility for this activity, the Jewish Agency and its Zionist affiliates were strengthening the British claim as to the, quote, illegality of Hebrew immigration into Palestine. We determined to challenge this claim of illegality by publicly announcing our intention to repatriate the Jewish people to Palestine and by assuming responsibility for this action." Do you remember who wrote that? Will Rogers Jr.
Will Rogers.
Board member of the American League for a Free Palestine, in a letter that was written on August 14th, 1946. And my point is, coming back to something we said earlier, there was an extraordinary group of people who devoted themselves to bringing Jews out of post-war Europe,
Yes.
where they had endured what is beyond the belief and beyond description, and bring these survivors to the Jewish homeland, which should have been open even before the Holocaust, during the Holocaust, and certainly post-Holocaust. And if it weren't for the British playing this game with the Arab people, the Arab nations, there would have been no blockade.
That's
of
right.
Jews.
Of course not.
And what you participated in was one of the gallant humanitarian efforts of all time. It happens to have served the Jewish people and those who were making a new life for themselves in the infant state of Israel. And you were part of that. And kol hakavod to you. And this book is fabulous. There's so much I want to talk to you about beyond the actual story here. I hope you'll let me sit with you time and time again.
I'll be back.
Murray, kol tuv v'hatzlacha. You've done something
It's about
wonderful.
all of us. It's not about me. It's about all the volunteer sailors.
Okay, and now what did you want to say about Leon Uris?
I became friendly with Leon Uris when I made my manuscripts. I sent it to him. He says to me, Murray, he says, finally the truth is being told.
You told the truth, Murray. Toda rabah. All the best to you.
Thank you.
Chapter 1 together, that's all. Just
Bakasha.
chapter 1.
I'm
Toda
with
rabah.
you right
Okay.
through.
Murray Greenfield, founder of Gefen Publishing in Israel. And again, Gefen does extraordinary work publishing not only English language texts, but texts of multi-languages. But be aware of Gefen. And then he's one of the heroic individuals who helped bring Jewish survivors as they were making their way to pre-state Palestine in 1947. He made it possible for them as part of Aliyah Bet and breaking the British blockade. I hope you enjoyed meeting him. And one more thing, if you have anything to add to the story of Aliyah Bet, please be in touch with me, email me, write me, post on our Facebook wall, tweet me. I look forward to hearing from you. And remember this book, The Jews' Secret Fleet, an extraordinary book with extraordinary photos. And what he does in this book, Murray does, is give you a chapter on each of the various boats. The Haganah, the real Exodus, Ben Hecht. All of the ship after ship is described, and their story is described. Beautifully written, superb photographs. The Jews' Secret Fleet by Murray Greenfield. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. L'chaim, my friends, to life.
L'chaim is a presentation of Jewish education in media.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS, the Jewish Broadcasting Service, with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the JBS homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to Jem, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.